Well, not that I'm counting, but the weekend is almost here, which means it's time to take a look at the new movies that are hitting screens. And for more on that, we are joined by film critic Richard Crouse. Good to see you as always, my friend, and happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. Nice to see you as well.
All right, let's start with Karate Kid Legends. This is what, the sixth film in the franchise?
Yep, and then you add in Cobra Kai, which was very popular on Netflix, and you really have this franchise that has endured over decades. And, you know, this movie feels like a remake in some ways of the very first one because it's just so many of the themes come back to revisit themselves in these movies. So you've got a young guy named Li Fong, played by Ben Wang. He moves to New York City with his mother from Beijing. She forbids him to practice kung fu, which he was studying in Beijing. But when he gets involved with a young woman whose pizzeria-owning father is in trouble with some bad guys that he owes a lot of money to, and there's a neighborhood bully, he has to fight back. And there you have the introduction of Jackie Chan and Ralph Macchio, who are the two reasons to go see this movie. They come and they mentor him, teaching him more kung fu and the ways of karate as well. So this is a movie that, frankly, isn't all that great. But there's something about that underdog versus the bully theme that works. And it has worked for decades for this franchise, and it continues to work in Karate Kid's Legend. Not a fantastic movie, but by the end of it, you just might be pumping your fist in the air. So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, and it's in theaters right now.
That's a great review. Okay, next we have the Phoenician Scheme, and this is a new Wes Anderson film.
Yep. And if you love Wes Anderson, you know exactly what to expect when you go see his movies. Beautifully composed shots that you could take right out of the movie and hang on your wall as a piece of art. He really has an eye for framing and everything else. These kind of deadpan performances from his actors. In this case, it's Tom Hanks and Benicio del Toro and Scarlett Johansson, A-listers all around here. And then kind of quirky stories. And in this case, you've got set in the 1930s, a business tycoon played by Benicio del Toro, who's starting a new business venture, that is, if he can avoid being killed by the teams of assassins who are trying to do him in. And, you know, I used to love Wes Anderson movies. The Holy Trinity, Bottle Rocket, Rushmore, and the Royal Tenenbaums were stories about quirky characters that had a really singular sensibility. And he's continued that, but I find in his later films that singular sensibility, the quirkiness, the whimsical nature of the movies has overpowered the storytelling. So I gave The Phoenician Scheme, which I think suffers from a complete emotional detachment simply because it's a little bit too whimsical, 2.5 stars out of 5, and it's in theaters right now.
All right. And lastly, we have Bring Her Back. This is a gripping movie, you say, about grief and loss.
Yeah, this movie I saw about a month ago and cannot shake it out of my head. I will not tell you that much about the plot because part of the beauty of this is letting it unfold in front of you in the theater. But you have a foster mother played by the great Sally Hawkins, 2-time Oscar nominee, whose sunny disposition and big beaming smile hides a more sinister side when she brings in 2 foster kids to raise as her own. And this is a movie that starts off with a level of anxiety simply because everything seems slightly off, like it's been twisted 180 degrees just off. And that building, that feeling of anxiety builds as you go further into the film, leading up to a climax, which is terrifying. It is disturbing, but it's not about the jump scares, and it's not about just the graphic nature of some of the visuals. It's about the grief and the loss and the devastating effect that it has on these characters and the way they respond to it. This is a pretty incredible film, but it's tough going. I will give you that. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, called Bring Her Back, and it's in theaters right now.
Yeah, that seems really powerful. Richard Crouse, thanks so much for this. Good to see you, and see you next week.
Talk to you soon.